People are saying there's a vibe shift politically.
We need warriors.
I just couldn't stop.
The original conservative influencer.
This man doesn't need an introduction.
DC Draino.
DC Draino.
DC Draino.
DC Draino.
I'm here at the White House. I just met with the president. This is the power of new media.
I have to go step up and fight for what I believe in.
The leaders at the top, they know what's going on, and frankly, it's evil.
If you won't fight for what you believe in now, when will you? Because now is the time.
We the people. Why you quiet? It's time to stand up for the truth. How they coming for our kids, so who gon' stand up for the youth? Ay, and we know we win because Yeshua is the proof. Ay, we the people like Gates Garcia, so that's no excuse.
After being raised by Democrats and attending a liberal arts school in the Northeast, he went on to graduate from one of the country's most prestigious law schools. He then practiced law in Hollywood, working on film finance for 6 years. DC Draino's path to being one of the most popular conservative social media influencers in the world is certainly unconventional. But as you'll learn today, it is so representative of many of our lives. Draino is the result of what happens when Americans choose personal values over material riches. The country would be better if more Americans followed his example. We, the people, are better for it. And he's here to talk about his journey. What's up, Draino?
Thanks for having me on, brother.
You're usually behind the screen, but sometimes you peek out and say hello to your fans. Saw you a couple years on Tucker. We're going to talk about that, but I noticed something immediately different about you from that interview. You've got this work of art going down your arm. You wanna talk about that? That seems pretty expressive.
Sure. Yeah. This is some call it a midlife crisis. I call it just procrastination because getting tattoos kind of sucks. But these are all these tattoos have religious significance for me, and tie into biblical passages. So it's the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Holy Spirit. The scales of justice, she's crying. I don't know where the camera angle is, but she's crying. The scales are broken. St. Michael the Archangel killing Satan. And this is Ephesians, the armor of God, going into battle. And these are the gates of heaven. The gates.
I like that. The gates.
Ending with the gates.
Yeah. I've got the Bible over my shoulder, but maybe one day I'll be tough enough to do that. Yeah. All right, man. Fun question to start out. First tweet.
My first tweet
ever
actually was went viral, and I had almost no followers, and I did a post saying that we shouldn't have transgenders in the military, and it was a camera post. I was talking to the camera, and this is during Trump's first term, and I was like, listen, this isn't a social justice science experiment. These are our armed forces. They need to protect our country. We shouldn't be injecting these woke politics into our military. And that was 2018, I think. And it got over 2,000 retweets. And I was just like, I asked a friend, I was like, is that good? I don't know. And he's like, dude, that's viral. So it was a good omen, but I really didn't take off on Twitter for at least another couple of years.
Okay, so then next question. Biggest tweet of your career. Most, and you can define that however you want, but what's kind of been the one?
Probably.
And there's been a lot.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I try to go viral every day. I say, a viral post a day keeps the irrelevance away. And people ask me, and my general answer is, it's a grind. You want to put out engaging content every single time, and I'll delete something very quickly. If I see it's not getting traction, gone. I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want to abuse their notifications, I don't want to. But probably the most viral tweet I had was actually during the Trump assassination attempt in Butler, PA. And I had followers of mine, they sent me videos that were not previously released showing the angles of, the guy on the roof, right? Like, I was one of the people that released that video where he's crawling on the roof and they're yelling, hey, there's a guy on the roof, and no one's doing anything. CNN hit me up, MSNBC, they're like, who'd you get that video from? Can we show? But just goes to show the power of independent media. And if it weren't for independent sources, we may not have ever received that footage.
And you have such a good relationship with your fans. You talk about receiving information from them. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Now I do want to sort of return to the intro that I read of you. Mm-hmm. You were raised by Democrats. At one point, your mother was a single mother raising 3 boys on welfare. I mean, if there's a target for Democrats to prey on, it's that family. So How does DC Draino evolve out of that to have the values that you have today?
You know, I almost think it skips a generation. My mother's father was a World War II, fighter pilot, war hero, ran military bases, super Republican. My mom rebelled against him, dropped out of college, went out to California, was a hippie, and I went back. I rebelled against her, really. I mean, I didn't really care about politics. And full disclosure, when I got to college, I did not know the difference between a Democrat or Republican, which is crazy to say at this point. But I mean, you have middle schoolers now that are into politics. That's just, society has changed, especially with social media. But I was just into sports and having fun with my friends. But yeah, my mom always asked me, she goes, what did I do wrong? I said, nothing. I just started reading books. So it's just a natural evolution.
Well, sometimes that's the best way for it to happen, sort of self-discovery. And, I want to highlight that you went to Northeastern, you went to the University of Chicago Law School. I mean, a top law school. You're not some guy that started a Twitter account in his basement. I mean, you're an intellectual animal. I mean, you've proven that you have brain power that some others don't have. And so you do that. You go to law school. You start this prestigious career in Hollywood as a lawyer. You did it for 6 years. You're working on film finance, but you reach a fork in the road and you realize none of the things I'm doing align with my values. But there was a critical inflection point when your firm came to you and said, we're going to make you partner. You're going to make $500,000 a year at a relatively young age. You said no. You packed up and moved across the country. Now, what I really want to emphasize, and I want to talk about why you did that, but two things stand out. You lost friends, and you went for 2 years without making any money. And you also turned down a lot of money, as I mentioned. So put us inside your head as our listeners and our viewers are out there trying to make their own hard career decisions that maybe conflict with their values. How did you rank those things, your values over friends, over money? What was that process like?
Tough to put into words. So just to clarify, I was offered partnership by a competitor law firm. Once they heard I was leaving, they invited me out for lunch, and they're like, we want to bring you in, and they proposed a very lucrative offer. I told them at the time I was moving to Florida, and they're like, oh, where are you going, Miami? And I'm like, no, Tampa, which coming from LA, people barely even know where Tampa is. But it was a big change, and I didn't tell anyone what I was doing because what I was doing was pretty crazy in hindsight. But I distinctly remember I was driving a BMW. I was living in Santa Monica. I could see the ocean when I stepped out of my door in the morning. I'd go into Century City, grab a coffee, say good morning to my secretary, go into my office with a window overlooking the ocean, and I had my student loans paid off. I owned a house, and I was just like, I have everything I could want to live a comfortable life. You could say I was living the American dream. And I was working on the top movies that you'd go in and watch in the movie theaters. Martin Scorsese movies, Will Ferrell, Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen. I mean, I was working on LeBron James deals, Selena Gomez deals, which not that fun. But I just felt a void. I felt something was missing. And at the same time, Trump had won the election, and I knew what was going on. I knew we were fighting a Marxist takeover of our government, a very corrupt government. Trump was fighting against that, and every major institution was attacking him, going against him. And I said, this guy needs support. I mean, at the time, even Fox News wasn't his friend. I said, this guy needs support, and I thought that memes were the most effective form of mass communication out there. And so I created the anonymous, DC Draino account. And I was just kind of living a double life for a while. But, starting the account, soon thereafter, people, I remember my girlfriend at the time came home one day, and she was a, Hollywood actress, so you can guess her politics. And she says, all my friends hate you now. And I only had like 5,000 followers. And I was just posting like news events of what Trump was doing anonymously, but they knew. I was like, weird. All those people that we went to dinner with for years, had a lot of great times with, nothing has changed except I'm supporting the president of the United States, and so now they hate me. And honestly, it was probably one of the best things that could have happened, because it truly pushed me out of my comfort zone. And it was tough. I remember I'd come home from work sometimes. I was still hiding it at work, like a digital Batman. And then coming home from work, and I remember pulling in my driveway and just staring at the wall and like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this could completely blow up in my face. I could ruin 10 years of a legal career that I built up. I could lose my reputation. And I remember I went upstairs. She's like, why were you in the car so long? I was like, I don't know. I was just thinking, But I just couldn't stop. And that's the part that's tough to put into words. When you have a calling in your heart, where I'd be at work, I could not physically do the work anymore. It was stuff I loved to do, stuff I was good at, could do it with my, hands tied behind my back. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm living someone else's dream. And I have to go step up and fight for what I believe in, because if I don't, this country is going to fall apart. And enough people have thankfully done that in the last 8 to 10 years, including yourself. I'm sure your story is similar, but if you won't fight for what you believe in now, when will you? Because now is the time.
Well, I appreciate you bringing me up. I'm just one of millions of people that are walking in your path and sort of filling in the footprints that you left in the sand. I was sort of sitting at my desk every day in a very meaningful, very rewarding job. I will say a very comfortable job. And I said, I'm not uncomfortable enough. God didn't put me on the earth to do this. As important as this work is, I was called to do something else. And what I felt called to do was have all the conversations in public that I had been having in private. And it sort of started through social media. I obviously don't have the following that you had, but it was a following of friends and family. And I was never public about a lot of my political views. And finally I said, why should I be willing to have a conversation in private that I'm not willing to have in public? That's very hypocritical. That's a double life. So I went through this very same evolution. So advice for me, advice for others. What was the hardest part? Because in your situation, you could have just gone back and practiced law. You sort of had the card in your back pocket. Maybe not back in Hollywood, but you have a law degree. But you went 3 months, 6 months, a year, no income, no money. It's like, when did you realize, was there a moment where it's like, maybe I don't do this? What was the low? Or maybe there wasn't a low, but walk me through that.
Oh, a lot of lows.
Okay.
A lot of lows. I was on the hamster wheel, the corporate hamster wheel, for as long as I can remember. School, good grades, good jobs, barely taking vacations. And I remember I got to Florida. I sold everything, sold my house, sold my BMW, bought a truck, packed up what I could. I had about $100,000 in savings, and I was like, it's do or die. Worst case scenario, I could be a lawyer, right? But it would have to, I'd be very limited in which companies I could work for at that point, right? If it failed. But I think of two things. One, the people that signed the Declaration of Independence, those 50 plus signatories, they were signing their own death warrant. If that didn't work, they were going to be, prosecuted and probably hung as terrorists by the British Crown. So you got to kind of go all in at some point. And for veterans, people that have, my favorite movies are similar to a lot of guys: Black Hawk Down, Braveheart, Saving Private Ryan, and you see these amazing men, the best of America, dying in the mud overseas for a country that they believed in, a country they believed was free. And I wanted to respect that sacrifice and try and make this that free country, and to pass it along to future generations as free as we grew up in. But the low points, probably the first day I got to Florida, and I woke up the next day, and
most people's first day in Florida is a high point.
Yeah.
But well, I understand.
A low point,
professional low point.
A low point in the sense that you wake up and no one tells you what to do. You don't have anywhere to go, and you're like, okay, all this stuff I was planning to do, now let's actually do it. And it's kind of scary, where do I even go, right? I just went to coffee shops. And you don't actually have a lot of friends to hang out with either, because they're all working normal people jobs. And so you're just kind of sitting there like, did I make the right decision? And there were tough times, you know, if your followers aren't growing, if your posts aren't doing well, you know, you just kind of looking around like, damn, should I start looking for jobs? You know, that money's starting to run low. But it honestly, it just wasn't about the money. I had one or two people that I really trusted who said, definitely do this, like keep going. One of them said, you'll make more money than you did as a lawyer. And I was like, oof, that's a nice vote of confidence.
Whoever that was right multiple times over.
yeah. Sal Cherry, if you're listening. Yeah, I mean, it was tough for a year or two, but to me, it wasn't about business success. It was about getting the message out there, and I felt like no one was saying what I wanted to hear. And yeah, so I mean, I was very fortunate that I started to grow. And at this point, it's a lot safer to be an open, proud Republican.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you, Draino. You've given a voice to the voiceless. You mentioned one group, the military. You know, if you're in the military, you're so constricted by what you can say or, you know, what your public views are of the military. They maybe not under Trump, but historically they've yanked you out. If you protested anything woke about the military, and all the last administration did was try to get the military to be as soft and as woke as possible, and we're now rolling some of that back. So that's exactly what you've been, a voice for the voiceless. You can say things for the military that they want communicated to the public that they can't say themselves. So when you put thumbs to your screen, where are you finding the motivation? Obviously, you're reading the day-to-day news. I know you read both sides, so you know what your opposition says and you know how to combat that. But I mean, what is the motivation? What is the inspiration for the next tweet or the next Instagram post?
Honestly, I can see through the propaganda, the psyop. A lot of people can, and I just feel confident I know very effective rhetorical weapons to give to people. So if they're saying, oh, you know, Trump said, you know, there are perfectly fine people on both sides. Remember the Charlottesville thing? They kind of twist that word, and I say, you know, basically, here's the clip, here's the full speech, here's what he said, and, you know, write out the quote. Just kind of neutralize the attack that they're trying to launch against them. And it's constant, right? They have a multi-billion-dollar propaganda operation. But you watch all these movies, you know, Braveheart, you know, Star Wars, The Rebel Alliance. I mean, you just need to be more determined than the enemy, and you can win. And this country, as much as we have censorship, although that's a lot better recently, we have the American spirit, and they simply don't give up. You know, you look back at the Battle of Bunker Hill. They ran out of ammo, and so they started putting rocks and shards of glass in their muskets and firing. And it's just, you have to have that American spirit. And I grew up in Massachusetts. That's all we learned about was the American Revolution. And, you know, they call us massholes up there. And I think that's a, you know.
Term of endearment.
Yeah. So you got to be a little bit of an asshole, you know, when you're facing evil, right? You know, you look at cops on the street. When they're facing these bad guys, they don't listen to reason. It's just brute force. And whether or not that cop or multiple cops are going to, you know, engage them and take them down. That's what we have to do every day with our words. The pen is mightier than the sword, and that is why they tried to censor us. It's also why they tried to take our guns. But it is the most powerful weapon in human history is free speech.
Future of social media. What is it? You know, the mainstream media died on election night, but you're a pioneer in this space. You've been well in front of this. But, you know, when we look 5 years from now, what is social media? How's it being used? What does DC Draino's account look like 5 years from now?
It is rapidly evolving, the entire social media space. So I would say combined, if you include Trump and Elon Musk on our team, and now you throw in Theo Vaughn, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, the Nelk boys, and then all the conservative names, you know, Charlie Kirk, you know, Candace Owens Tucker, myself, others, we probably have close to 1 billion combined followers. That is a thermo nuke of influence, and it's growing so rapidly. There are probably hundreds of people on Instagram with over 100,000 followers. And when I first started, there was only like 3 of us, over 100. Besides like Tucker and Sean Hannity, you know, people that were famous on TV, but these independent media outlets. So I think the space is going to continue evolve into a more professional business ecosystem to make money. People ask me all the time, how do you make money? It's through sponsorships, it's through ads, just like Fox News and Newsmax, except the only difference is my ads have a comment section, which is not always fun. Sometimes you got to turn the comments off. But yeah, I got to pay the bills. I don't take a vow of poverty to do this. There's nothing more American than using capitalism in the free market.
Someone came at you recently for posting an ad, and it's like, well, 5 million people like his content, and to continue to produce content, the man needs to make a living. I mean, it's just
all you have to do is this.
Yeah.
Right? One little thumb swipe and that pain is over. You're done. And then it's back to all that information you love. So I tell people, if you're pissed at one of my posts, just wait half hour. There'll be another one. You can probably like that one or be pissed again, whatever. And you can always unfollow. It's not an airport. No need to announce your departure. But we do gotta make a living. But it also, allows me to employ people, right? So I'm providing jobs. I'm a small business, but it allows me to grow into other areas. And so, my plans are still uncertain as to what I plan on doing. Honestly, I just wait for God to tell me what to do. He told me to do this. It becomes very obvious, and you don't want to really make a decision in this kind of entrepreneurial open space unless your heart is absolutely pulling you in that direction. So, but just tweeting and posting on Instagram, it's a good life.
Yeah.
It's what I love to do. I make enough money to live and employ some people, and it's very effective. I'm last week I was invited to the White House. I met with Trump's deputy chief of staff. I'm flying out tomorrow to DC. I'm going to be meeting with Vice President J.D. Vance. It's pretty surreal what posting some memes and tweets can do in terms of who you'll meet and who you'll be connected to.
So we're sort of flirting with the word success. We've talked about, this can generate income and this can generate sponsorships, but put that to the side, sort of the balance sheet, the income statement, I should say. How do you measure success? And a two-part question, sort of what fulfills you about this? Is it the reach of a particular audience? Is it the impact that a single tweet has on somebody? What is your sort of intangible measure of success?
I would say number one measure of success is November 5th, 2024, when we took back the White House.
Amen.
When we took the House and the Senate. I almost feel like my job is complete. Like I can go home to my farm and just tend to my crops. George Washington did it. Maximus Decimus Aurelius wanted to do it, but they, pissed him off, killed his family. But there is a part of me that feels that. But I also know now is actually when the fight really begins. Now that we have power, we have to actually clean this stuff out. So that's one thing. The second thing, and this is what was most important up until November 5th, was giving people inspiration to stand up and be proud Americans, because there were some very dark days. After Trump, after they stole it from Trump, or I don't know what platform this is going to be on, after 2020.
We don't cancel on this show.
All right, good. Well, and the COVID lockdowns and the forced vaccines and the masks on kids, and Trump is quiet. He's banned off all social media platforms. Biden's got the dark red lights and he's yelling at us, MAGA extremists, and they're cracking down. The FBI is raiding peaceful protesters' houses. They're armed guys storming in the doors, and it felt like we were losing our country. And that is the time where people most need hope. And I did start to see a religious revival. I think Christianity is coming back with a vengeance, and especially in the younger generation. And I see it on the internet. It's the memes, it's the videos. There's a culture of we're no longer going to be scared of our religious beliefs. We have tested out what secularism looks like, and it is very quickly filled with corrupt government. humans need something to believe in. And if you don't believe in God, you don't believe in the Bible, evil will take that place and steer you down a very dark path, a path where you're going to mutilate your children because they say they like the color pink one day, a path where you're going to open our borders and allow terrorists in and rapists and murderers. And it's a dark path, and sometimes it just has to get worse before it gets better. And so as painful as that was, I think we are entering the golden age of America. But yeah, that was probably the most empowering thing I experienced, is when people will come up to me and say, thank you. You've inspired me. You've given me hope. And that's all you need to keep going sometimes.
Yeah, it's not just, you're not only living in the twilight zone when you're able to mutilate children or have a Swiss cheese border. You're living in the twilight zone when those things are encouraged, when there's a political movement out there to encourage those things. I don't know a better way to put it. It's so foreign to my brain that it's hard to articulate. Sometimes you talk about the positive part of this is this sort of revival of Christianity and Judeo-Christian values. People are saying there's a vibe shift politically. There's a vibe shift religiously. There's a vibe shift in the entertainment and arts. There's a vibe shift in corporate boardrooms. Yes. There's all sorts of vibe shifts going on right now. And what conservatives get in trouble with sometimes is sort of dancing in the end zone. We, as to your point, November 5th was great. That's not the end. That's the beginning. We've got to step on the gas and now execute on what the American people elected our officials to do. All right. Serious stuff. Let's have some fun. Little game here. These are just fun little questions that every guest before you has been able to put one in the pot. When you leave today, you'll give me one to put in the pot. We pull them out.
Amazing.
Big tough guys come in here with their sleeve tattoos, and we break them down a little bit and humanize them. So I don't know what I'm going to draw, but we'll both have to answer it.
Okay.
All right. So Carl Edwards was actually the first guest on We the People. He just went into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He left this one. If neither money nor time were a factor and you were certain to succeed at it, what would you be doing right now? I'm going to go first, and you're not allowed to have the same answer as me because my answer is this.
Yeah.
But I'm allowed to say that because I'm so new to this. This is exactly what I wanted to do if nothing else matters. I wanted to put points on the board for the conservative movement. I wanted to spend the next 40 years of my life celebrating faith, family, and country in an uncancelable format with courageous, badass Americans. So that's what we do here. That's my answer. But you can't say DC Draino. You got to give me something else.
Honestly, just being on a ranch outside Tennessee, outside Nashville, and having a bunch of dogs, cats. I actually want to have a capybara or a few. I don't know if you know what those are.
No, but I didn't have you as a cat guy. No, you said dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Go ahead.
Yeah. I know I'm not supposed to have cats as a single man, almost 40, but they're funny little assholes. Very entertaining. Dogs, cows, big on cows lately. Raccoons, I'm intrigued to get a raccoon pet. So yeah, I would just live in a house.
The caveat lately, big on cows lately.
Big on cows lately. I was just out in Texas, and they had a bunch of baby cows on this ranch, and I was like, they're just like dogs. There's very similar mannerisms, and they're really cute. So maybe some chickens. So yeah, that's. But not to take your answer, but ideally,
you're doing it, man. You're doing it.
I tell people. Work is my vacation doing this, and vacation is my work.
All right, well, you're stealing a future question, so hold on to that
thought.
All right, we're going to go there. But dude, I've been out with you in Tampa. I mean, it's like going around with a rock star. Pictures of this, pictures of that, people coming up asking for autographs. Do you like that? I mean, you've got fans. You are a social media influencer. You are what so many people nowadays want to be. It's like the number one, job that millennials want. What is the coolest part of your job?
Well, what's funny is, for me personally, I actually try to hide. I put up as little of me as possible, and when I'm with friends, they're always so confused. They're like, I don't get it. all you show is a little circle picture up on your Instagram and people still recognize you. I honestly don't know, right? Like I just put out stuff that I believe in, and so I can't see it from their perspective. But yeah, it is pretty cool that people are so inspired that they want to come up, take a picture, and it happens pretty much every time I go out, and not even just here in Massachusetts, New York City, California. So it's nationwide. There's people all over this country that really care. But probably the coolest part was getting invited to dinner with President Trump. That was truly the peak for me.
White House or Mar-a-Lago?
Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, did you get to play with the iPad?
He played with it. He had it there the whole time, and he picks his music, and then he'll be like, hold on, you got to hear this part. And then he'll just click the thing and jack up the volume, and it'll be like Pavarotti, like just belting out some, the end of the song. And we're at Mar-a-Lago. We're in the dining area where there's like 20 other tables filled with billionaires, and they're all eating lunch. And he'll make it so loud you cannot have a conversation with anyone else. And then Pavarotti will end his note. He'll be like, "Wasn't that great? Wasn't that great?" And everyone will just start clapping, like, "Thank you, sir. That was very nice to have Pavarotti at deafening levels." And then he played Sinead O'Connor. He loves Frank Sinatra, Elvis. So he's got his and he just plays the same songs every time. I've had dinner with him twice now. It's the same kind of playlist. So yeah, that was really cool. And President Trump it's hard to say, he's exactly how he is on stage. I don't know he's super nice, he's super charming, he's always got a smile on his face, and he's infinitely curious about what people think about politics. So we had a 3-hour dinner one time, and he just asked me my opinion on everything under the sun politically, and we didn't agree on everything. I saw that as my place to advocate for things that I felt the MAGA movement wanted.
Are you willing to share one thing?
Sure. Couple things. One, I was a little bit less happy about the vaccines than he is. He's like, those vaccines save lives, and I think for older people it made a lot of sense, but for younger people, he didn't force them. He didn't mandate. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden did. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, people are getting injured and they're actually dying from this. It's real. And I think we're starting to see the actual scientific evidence. I had a girl I went to, I don't want to say it, but I know people personally that have passed away. I know people that have gotten myocarditis. And it's real, and it's now that's being proven. So, and then another thing was, I told him, I was like, we should maybe consider leaving NATO. I don't know that they're serving. He goes, no, I like NATO. I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
And then he turned the music up.
Just throwing out seismic geopolitical opinions, seeing if he'll bite. I did ask if he could pardon all the J6ers and commute the sentences of people that engaged in violence. So if you punched a cop and you were in jail, you don't get pardoned. But we also know that people got disproportionately longer jail sentences than, say, BLM or Antifa. So they, time served. And then for people that were peacefully protesting, whose houses got raided by the FBI, who got thrown in solitary confinement, for walking through peacefully, as if you're on a tour, those people should get pardoned. And he looked around, he asked his advisors, he goes, does that seem okay? And they're like, yeah, seems okay. I was like, all right. Now, I don't know if I was the first person to offer that, but I advocated, right? I took that time to speak on behalf of people. So, but he's just such a nice guy. And I'll tell you one funny story. He has pretzel bread as he's like, get the he's always like, oh, get the ice cream sundae, get this, get the pretzel bread. Okay, I get the pretzel bread. So they bring out pretzel bread for us, and it's got the salt crystals on top, and his looks like it has a layer of frosting. He gets a very special pretzel bread, caked in salt, and he's like, my doctor says I need to eat more salt. He's like, I'm healthy as a horse, and he just eats it. The guy has so much energy, it's insane. We were at dinner till midnight. All the other tables are empty. I'm ready to pass out at the table. I'm just tired. We had a long day. And he looks around, we're all yawning, and he's like, all right, I guess we should go to bed. and then he just goes off to his room and, sleeps 4 hours and does it again. So at 78 years old, his energy is off the charts.
He is the definition of age is just a number. I mean, he blows my mind every time I see the man. He runs circles around people that are 20 years younger than him. And when he campaigns, I mean, he does 4 events in a day. They're not rallies. They are events. I mean, they are like concerts when he does them. And the man just doesn't have a battery that hits low. You're similar. Your job is 7 days a week, 24/7, 365. You actually put out a tweet one time that said 100% Draino 100% of the time. Yeah. I'm going to ask you to imagine a world where I force you to take a vacation and the phone has to stay at home. Where are you going? What are you doing? What does relaxation look like for you?
Wow.
And you can't go to the farm with your cows that you like lately and your cats and all that.
Pet raccoon would be cool too. I actually just got back from Montana. I went snowmobiling, snowboarding. So I don't like to relax, if that makes sense. I always got to be doing something. But my favorite things to do in my off time are hunt. I love to hunt. I love to be out in the woods, sitting in a tree with a gun, looking for deer, pigs. I hunt in Alabama, in Florida. So I was in Kentucky this year. So hunting, snowboarding, and just hanging with friends. I love going to nice restaurants and having like a good meal and having a great conversation. Nice bottle of wine.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I like that. What are your weaknesses? Are there holes in Draino's game? Is there an area of your life that you would want to tighten up the screws on a little bit? What I'm trying to do is, when we're online, we can delete a tweet. Mm-hmm. We can, we have things that edit our spelling. Mm-hmm. Life's not that way. Life's not perfect, and no one's perfect. We all sort of are working out harder, or getting better sleep. What's that for you?
I mean, probably one of the biggest complaints people have is I'm a little bit of a workaholic, So you don't get to be a successful corporate lawyer unless you are, married to the job, and that's definitely true with what I do now. So I do have to consciously take time to spend more time with family, spend more time, resting, because this job, it's a marathon, and people do take breaks, and they should. I don't, but you should. I think it's healthy, and it's kind of like what are we actually fighting for, right? It's you fight all the time for what? To have a good, happy life, right? So actually go enjoy the fruits of that a little bit. So I am actually trying to do that a bit more.
Cool.
Personally.
Cool. I look at the arc of your life and I say, everything you're doing sort of aligns for a political run. I mean, the hardest thing for a politician to do, the two hardest things for him or her to do, is to get people willing to follow him or her, look to them for political inspiration. Check mark for you. And the other hard thing to do is to build a following behind that, to get constituents, to get people willing to vote for them. 5 million followers on social media. Check mark for you. So, Draino, is our politics in your future?
Against my will, probably yes. I was president of student government in undergrad, and that was the first time I kind of realized I had a little bit of a gift, I guess, in terms of public speaking. I would just see people, they were just, staring at me. They're interested in what I was saying. They were feeling emotions, and I said, oh, that's interesting, but I personally don't believe career politicians are a good thing. I actually really despise them. And because the longer you're in politics, the more you're going to become part of that swamp. You got to get the donations to run, and those donations don't come for free, especially from the big companies and the PACs. So when I run, it'll probably be later in my life when I know that's gonna be the capstone, and I'd love to do the George Washington, go in there 2 terms and be done, in whatever office that is. But I don't plan to, and I frankly, I just respect people more that have private sector careers. Like, you actually went out and did something, not just living off taxpayer money and taking donations. It just doesn't seem like a very fulfilling life for me. So, I'm 39 now. Talk to me in late 40s, and we'll see. But,
yeah. Do you have mentors? Do you have people that you draw inspiration from, whether it's actual conversations with these people or just sort of people that you like to emulate, whether they're in politics or not?
I wish I did. You know, there's not a lot of, you know, political Instagram influencers that did this before me. It's kind of making it up as I go. You know, Elon follows me. I would like to actually, you know, meet him. He literally just liked one of my tweets right before we started the show. He's someone I very much am inspired by. I don't know how he's built different. You know, Trump's built different. Elon's built different. The guy's CEO of like 10 incredibly successful companies. I can barely do one. Small business. Joe Rogan's another inspiration in terms of just it's and there's a common denominator. It's guys that do things they believed in. They're unique. They aren't imitating others. They just do it because they wanted to do it, and it's had massive historic impacts on the country and the world. So, and Trump would have been the third guy, but I already met him. So yeah those three guys.
2 questions left. First one, you have a lot of enemies. Comes with the territory. I mean, you stare them right in the face and give them hell. So use this as an opportunity. What's your message to your enemies?
Well, in politics, when you're posting every single day, 10% of people are going to hate what you say no matter what. And that might be a different 10% of people no matter what. But, you know, and there's also human, you know, there's envy, right? There's jealousy. There's people upset with their own lives who, you know, want to blame you or blame mysterious forces for what's going wrong. But frankly, you know, a lot of people probably notice I'm not one to get into the weeds. You know, I don't punch down. I barely punch laterally. I'm only punching up. I'm going after the most powerful people that are destroying this country, that I know are involved, that have sold out, and those are the people I'm going after. And if you don't like that, then I don't really care. You know, we got a country to save, so you can chirp all you want. Thanks for the ad share revenue.
So the only thing that you have more than enemies is probably your fans. Why don't we end with you saying something to them, or maybe telling them, sharing them something about you that they don't know. Anything you want to say to your fans?
Thank you for being fellow patriots. That's something I do tell people when I meet them. You know, there's no one man can't do all this. Not Trump. It's a movement. This is the MAGA movement. What he has created is a movement of people that, you know, they say Americans are slow to react, but when they do, they're an unstoppable force of nature. And we won in World War II. We defeated the Soviets in the Cold War, and we are going to defeat the woke globalist Marxist movement worldwide. That's what we're doing. And you're seeing it with Trump. He's going after Greenland, Panama, Canada, the EU, NATO. I mean, we are in an expansionary mindset to free the world from this tyranny. So thank you to everyone in this fight. It didn't happen overnight. They didn't take this country overnight. It's not going to be fixed overnight. But I'd say we're probably past the halfway point, to be honest. I think we went through the worst of it, and it's a little bit downhill from here. But let's finish them off.
Well, every time you tweet, because of the amount of people, the amount of patriots you represent, I almost look at it as a mini conversation of you and all the people that follow you. You're sort of giving them a voice. So in that vein, thank you for coming here, having a conversation with We the People. Keep fighting. We need you out there, and we'll try to do the same.
Thank you, brother.
We the people. Why you quiet? It's time to stand up for the truth. And they coming for our kids, so who gon' stand up for the youth? Ay, and we know we win because Yeshua is the proof. Ay, we the people like Gates Garcia, so that's no excuse. We no longer scared to preach our values, getting loud. You not ready.